E360 TV proudly presents messages of inspirational stories. Live streaming now to millions of devices, including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, with your host, Donna Guimwa, producer and host, Jim Grant, producer and host, along with Michaela Vidal, administrator and host, and Gaia Guimwa Balconi Wada, editor-in-chief. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today. My goodness gracious. The Messages of Inspirational Stories TV show is proudly brought to you by the 7 Levels of Truth. This book right here on Amazon. And the author of that book is a personal friend of mine and Mr. Emerson Brantley. Guy's name is Bill Heinrich. Let me get that there a little bit closer so you can get a chance to see Mr. Bill's smiling face. His website
there's a quote from somebody named Jim Grant on the back, too.
Oh, yeah. Don't pay any attention to that one there, ladies and gentlemen. Bill's website is truelifepurposenow.com. And Bill is just a personal friend of ours. And we're very, very honored to be able to share with you about his wonderful book. And Emerson, welcome to the show, my man, because today we're talking about the lost art of
Yakety yak.
Don't talk back. Remember that song that goes with Yakety yak, don't talk back. That was not even pre-rehearsed. That just kind of came out. But it's really amazing how important communication is. And we like to start every show with recognizing a few of the important events in life that is worthy of being a holiday. And I'd just like to start out. I'm going to do the first one, if I may, Emerson. I'm going to be talking about the National Hot Dog Day. Hot dog is right, because you think about hot dogs, my goodness gracious. About summertime, you're talking about the 4th of July, you're talking about anytime baseball, anytime you get together. Oh my goodness. I tell you right now, as the old saying goes, hot diggity dog.
Tube steaks.
I like to
tube
eat
steaks, Daddy. Tube steaks.
Yeah, exactly. And hot dogs, I tell you right now, they are one of the most delicious little meals you can have. They really are. I know a lot of people talk about hot dogs and all that. Back in the 1200s, it was a German delicacy to have the Frankfurter, and it was distributed throughout Germany. In 1870, the Coney Island dogs.
Did they use the Oscar Mayer Wiener wagon to distribute it? The original Oscar Mayer Wiener wagon.
Yeah, that's
with
right.
With Clydesdale horses, I bet.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, then
in
1870, Coney Island dogs were introduced. Charles Feltman began selling sausages and rolls on Coney Island, and that's how they got the name the Coney Island dog. I didn't know that. You've heard about ballpark franks. Well, that was in 1893. And hot dogs and baseball are often paired together in St. Louis by the owner of the St. Louis Browns, which is now known as the Baltimore Orioles. And ballpark franks, 1971. I wasn't aware of this. Hot dog is first celebrated by students in Alfred, New York. The hot dog's affordability is something that many students favor. And they wanted to give recognition to the hot dogs. So on this day, this is the day that we recognize our love and appreciation for the good old-fashioned hot dog. And what's the next one there on the list there, Emerson?
Moon Day.
Moon Day, huh?
Keep your pants on, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
National Moon Day. It was today in 1969 that after they circled the moon and disengaged the lunar module and landed and all systems checked out, that Armstrong climbed down the ladder and uttered those famous words, "Leap for mankind."
Mm-hmm.
Now, that was a few years back, but
Oh yeah.
National Moon Day
Mm-hmm.
looks at the exploration and all of the, Jim, anytime there's great projects like that, there are all sorts of naysayers. And
Mm-hmm.
in anything that we do in our life, we get lots of naysayers as well.
Mm-hmm.
But so many things that we take for granted in our modern life were developed
Mm-hmm.
in that challenge to get to the moon
Oh yeah.
and
It really
the entire
was.
space program. There's
It
so
sure
many
was.
things.
Yeah.
When firefighters are fighting fires,
Mm-hmm.
they carry with them little packets that look like tinfoil.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not tinfoil. It's a special alloy and it's multi-layers, but it's as thin as paper.
Mm-hmm.
But if a fire break is lost and the fire jumps and they're trapped, they can wrap in this stuff that looks like tinfoil and it can save their life because it reflects the heat. That was developed for the space program. And when you look at the pictures of the lunar module, you see all of that gold foil around it. That's what that was.
Yeah.
And there's so many things, microwaves,
Oh yeah.
GPS systems that we have today.
Yeah.
It's just on and on and on and on. And the continued investment in programs like that creates so many things that add value to everyone's life.
It really does. And it's amazing how, when you set a goal and you want to accomplish it and the things that you learn along the way and what boomerangs from that, that's the pure energy. And that's what you're looking for because that's what makes life worth living.
Yep.
And also today, one of my favorite things is the National Fortune Cookie Day. I love fortune cookies. They normally have some little nice, airy saying about them, but I've often thought, wouldn't it be fun to go to a party, and make up some, gag fortune cookies? Now, you wouldn't want to be cruel or anything like that. Unless you're just, around your own buddies, you guys you want to not get even with, but, have fun with. Like, can you imagine him reading a fortune cookie? It says, "You should have stayed home. You are in danger."
Go home now.
Yeah.
Well, I got one, that said, "Help! I'm being held prisoner in a fortune cookie factory." I wasn't really sure what to do with that one.
Oh, that's hilarious. I like that one there. But National Fortune Cookie Day is celebrated on this day, July the 20th. And you just imagine, enjoying a sweet, crunchy little delicacy. And I want to get into, of course, they're a crisp folded biscuit and with a buttery flavor to them. They're sweet and all. But the history of the fortune cookie, I wanted to get into this. Many Americans who dine in Chinese themed restaurants in the United States receive a fortune cookie after their meal, which makes them identify with the practice with the Chinese culture. However, the origins of this little treat may be traced back to Japan in the 19th century before finding its way to the American society in the 20th century. Some Japanese candy shops began creating small crackers folded into shapes that would allow a message to be tucked inside at the bend as early as 1870s. And so the Japanese immigrants from California and Hawaii in the late 1800s, early 1900s, it was thought that the fortune cookies of the that's in today's Chinese restaurants, American Chinese restaurants, were based on that notion. And it's really a neat little thing, a neat novel idea. The first portrayal of fortune cookies is back in 1878. It's documented in Japanese literature and history. And they say in 1900 they arrived in the United States. Compliments all the Japanese bankers
They've
who
had
set
pressure
business.
shipments since then.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, they make them all the time now. And the fortune cookie machine was created in 1964. That seemed like took a long time there, but a guy by the name of
created a fortune for somebody.
Yeah, there you go.
It makes sense though. Japan could be the origin of it because I mean they basically are an origami type of a shape.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that's part of Japanese culture as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And Edward Louis, the proprietor of the Lotus fortune cookie business in San Francisco, creates the all powerful machine that was created. And back in 1988, fortune cookies in fun colors, fancy fortune cookies now offer fortune cookies in a wide range of flavors, colors, and customizations, including milk chocolate dipped, dark chocolate dipped, white chocolate dipped, all with spoken messages and full of colorful imprinted fortunes. So the fortune cookie, my goodness gracious, it's been a fun thing to enjoy. I guess, every time I've ate at a Chinese restaurant, of course, that's normally who you're associated with, I've always looked forward to the fortune cookies. They're just,
Well, the good news is that if you're a member of a wholesale club, like Sam's or BJ's or
Mhm.
Costco, you could go and buy your own if you want, and
Yeah,
buy a box of 1,000 of them and get all the good fortune.
there you go.
Except
There you go.
you get all the fortune except for the $24.95 you spent for the box. They keep that.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear. It's really interesting, and I think is there another holiday there you want to mention? Let's see here.
Another
You
good one.
you want to take the Women's Union Establishment Day, Emerson?
Well, actually, you had read up on that before,
Mm-hmm.
but I can open it up and read it. This is from
Okay. Yeah, just share it with them.
this is from Laos, or how do they pronounce it there, Jim?
Well, it's they got it spelled Lao as far as the actual union, so it could either be pronounced Lao, but the country is Laos. Laos.
Well, Women's Union Establishment Day is something that is annually celebrated in the country of Laos or Laos,
Mhm.
and it's something that highlights something that is an issue in all around the world, and that's the ability of women to work, women to earn money for families. Um, in many parts of the developing world, often the men end up going off to work in some distant place. If you've been on cruise ships before, Jim, right?
Mhm.
I mean, you have 1,500 people or so on there from 70 countries or 80 countries,
Mhm.
and they work for 9 to 10 months at a time, and then get a couple of months off at home.
Mhm.
Well, that's it's a challenge.
Mhm.
It's a challenge, and it's a challenge, and sometimes it'll bring them to tears, if they talk about their family. But at home, quite often the women are left trying to take care of everything, and they need to be able to work, and they need to be able to have those opportunities. We've all heard about sweatshops
Mm.
and slave labor and all of that. So this was really a very forward a forward-looking event to begin in that part of the world, and it began
Mhm.
back in 1955, I believe.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And or the Women's Union was founded in 1955. So this is a day that honors women and honors
Mhm.
women who are working,
Mhm.
and it honors the idea that a fair wage for a fair day's work for everybody.
Absolutely. And Emerson, like you say, I was surprised when it said it was started in Laos over there, and they call them the Lao Women's Union.
All right.
But I was kind of surprised, to be honest with you, that was where it started, and that was when it started.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes to show you that even back in those days, well, I don't know how Laos is now, but back in those days, it was a very poor country. And
And everything that ended up exploding in Southeast Asia
yeah.
had already begun,
Mhm.
and Laos was part of that.
Yes.
Of,
Yes.
of the communists coming in, and the
Mhm.
brutality and all of that stuff was going on
Yeah.
quite a bit before, back when we first sent just advisors over,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
there
We
was
sure
still
did.
French Indochina over there. There were a lot
Yes.
of things that took place after World War II, and for this
Yeah.
to have happened during that time is
Mm.
an amazing fact by itself. Strong, powerful women.
Yes. Yes.
Kudos, kudos, kudos.
Yeah. We got to salute those ladies, and
Yep.
because I know that some of their daughters or granddaughters may be seeing this show and say, "Yes, my grandmother or my mother was part of that," and that's a wonderful heritage for you to be associated with because, like you say, Emerson, they were forward thinking then
Oh yeah.
because when I went to Vietnam in '69 and '70, it was the communist regime. And they were, wanting to rule as what communism does. They want to enslave everybody, control everybody.
And they had
And
purges. There were a lot of people killed.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But you look at Vietnam today, and my attitude, and this is true with a lot of Vietnam veterans and a lot of Americans too. Our attitude of it is if someone served in the Viet Cong or the NVA and they come to the United States, hey, welcome, you know, because it wasn't any hatred towards us individually, because people don't start wars, governments do. And my point being, nowadays,
And all sorts of powerful interest
yes,
that
and
stir up the emotions of the masses.
right.
Yeah.
And nowadays, Vietnam is wanting to be more like a republic than a communist country. And I can guarantee you, I believe this with all my heart. I could be wrong, but I could almost guarantee you it started with the women's movement because the hand that rocks the cradle will rule the world. Number one. Number two, it's the ladies. When push comes down to shove, it's the ladies that keep the home fires burning, brother.
Well, we've talked about it on the show before. Dr. Yunus from
Mhm.
Bangladesh, I believe,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
he came up with the concept of micro lending, and he won the Nobel Prize for that.
Mhm.
And the concept of micro lending wasn't just giving small amounts of money. In fact, it wasn't just giving money. It wasn't
Mhm.
just charity. It was
Wow.
making small, tiny little loans, $50 or $100. And this was the magic in it. The money was loaned to the women
Yeah.
because the women would take the money and buy thread. They'd buy fabric. They'd buy a phone that they could then charge people to make phone calls with. Or they would create some kind of little cottage industry,
Mhm.
and they would grow that industry, and they would begin hiring other women, and they would begin changing other homes and lives, and they
Mhm.
changed their community, the
Mhm.
city, the
Mhm.
country, the world. That was the concept.
Mhm.
And the payback on those loans, and people say, well, why don't they just give them the money? And what's the big deal? It's $50. Just give them the 50. No, because that's charity, and it's a handout, and that takes away the dignity
Amen.
of them being able to, by their own abilities,
Mhm.
become something more. And so
Yeah.
they loan the money, and the payback on those loans, Jim, I've said this before, the payback rate on those loans is higher than the
Mhm.
average payback rate on loans in the United States of America.
Yes.
In other
Yes,
words,
it
I'll say
is.
it a different way. We
Mhm.
default on more loans than these little women living in poverty
Yeah.
who play with dirt floors, trying to just make enough to be able to put food on their table.
Mhm. Yeah.
They pay back their loans.
Yeah,
It's,
because they
it's
can also
amazing.
once they pay it back, they can get some more. And I think I looked
They
it up.
can, yeah.
It was either 96 or 98% payback.
It's huge.
Oh
It's huge.
yeah, it's off because the ladies there, they say, hey, you know, I don't have any assets. You go to a bank, you want to apply for a loan, fine. If if you got good credit and assets, and it's a piece of cake. You're just going to walk in and go through the process and get the loan. No big deal for a lot of people. But these poor ladies, no one would invest one thin dime into
Right.
them. And then when they find out that they don't need credit, all they need is, their own credibility, they
And a
can get a
plan.
loan. Yeah, they can get a loan for $100. And think how that made them feel. That's why charity and handouts and welfare never works, because you rob people of their dignity.
There's
And
a time and a place for it.
yeah,
When you have
But
when you have a huge disaster and there's nothing and it's going to take
oh
days and
yeah,
weeks and months, you've got to be able to help the people. And that's
sure,
not the
sure.
time to be saying, "Hey,
Yeah,
you want to start a business."
yeah.
It's fixed. That those are emergency things. That's
That's
the
emergency
problem we get
aid.
into is the long term,
Yeah,
and then you create dependence. And these
yeah.
women are not dependent. These women
Mm-mm.
are independent. Now, people always ask me, "Well, why didn't he? What do you mean? Why just the women? Well, I mean, why not give it to the men? Have some men entrepreneurs too." And I'm just going to say it straight, because when the men were loaned the money, it was spent on drugs, alcohol,
Young women.
gambling, and prostitution.
Mm-hmm.
End of story.
Yeah.
That's what they didn't go and start a business and start sewing or start, charging people,
Mm-hmm.
for this or that or the other.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do that,
Mm-hmm.
and the women did.
Mm-hmm.
The women put it back in and
Mm-hmm.
turned it into more, and then put it back in and turned that into more, and then hired another woman and another one and another one, and built these little cottage industries. So it's changed people's lives all over the world. It's an amazing program. It really, and there are a number of companies now that do it. It's just an amazing program.
Mm-hmm. It really is. And the bottom line is that you're able to give someone an opportunity to have dignity
Mm-hmm.
and pride, not a puffed up pride, but a pride in doing a good job, a pride of, I did this. And that is so important for people in all walks of life, because all welfare does is enslave people. What Emerson was talking about earlier about the AIDS and all that, giving people aid during a disaster, that's the right thing to do, because
Mm-hmm.
a disaster is not a lifestyle.
Right.
Welfare becomes a lifestyle. And that's where we run into trouble with that here in the United States. Well, we've been talking about communication this week. And you know what, Emerson, I'm telling you, it has been wonderful. We've covered some great topics here. And we know verbal communication is very important, because a lot of young people today, their verbal skills are pitiful.
Yeah,
They
it's
really
sad.
are. And it also,
Not just young people, not just young
oh,
people.
oh, absolutely, because
Yeah.
we all, to some degree, are addicted to sitting around. And I don't have my phone here. I guess I left it over there. But anyway, I didn't miss anything. Sitting around with the phone in hand, doing this number and communicating, texting, whatever, looking at stuff. And it's addictive. But it's an automatic disconnect with our ability to communicate with another human being.
Yep.
And
And
that is one thing.
my,
Mm-hmm.
my, my wife was a college professor of art,
Mm-hmm.
and she retired a few years back. But before she ever even retired, she already was having issues. She taught art. One of the main programs she taught was art history, and she
Mm-hmm.
had issues with the papers that she would get, and the students couldn't string together, they couldn't string together the thoughts and create a simple paper.
Mm.
We're not talking about 10, 20 page, 50
Mm-hmm.
page theses. You're talking about simple, one page documents having about this painter and the period of time that he or she was in, and what they were depicting, and what the
Mm-hmm.
symbol, something that made sense.
Mm-hmm.
They were having problems with it already.
Oh, yeah.
Already, this was several years ago.
Oh,
So
yeah.
typing the 140, I don't think it's 140 character limit now in Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But typing a limited number of characters or limited number of thoughts are very, very tight, succinct little text
Oh, yeah.
emails and things like that.
Yeah, instead of typing out the word "you," they just use the letter "U" and all these shortcuts. And I laugh at the guy who's sent his daughter a text message, and he has said "DAD" at the end. And she called him back. She says, or texted him back, says, "What does DAD mean?"
What's that stand for?
Yeah, he said, "That's who I am. I'm your dad."
That's fine.
But just excuse me, just goes to show you how fastly that we can get a disconnect with other human beings. And
Fastly?
yeah, how fastly.
How fastly? Okay, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, fastly. I mean, is that's a good word? It is now. But anyway,
Use it 3 times, it's yours, right?
yeah, I own it.
You
I've got a degree in Southern slang. But really, how fast we just lose everything. It starts with our verbal communication. It dominoes into our written communication. And then our nonverbal communication, that really speaks loudly of who we are, what we're thinking, how we're feeling at the moment, how we are really communicating with the person that we're in front of. And if you're on a job interview or if you're being interviewed for a position and you're sitting there and you're, I guess, slumped over, you're telling that your body language is saying, I'm bored. I really don't want to be here.
Or your eyes are looking around.
Yeah. Because I hate it when I ask somebody a question and they'll go like, well, look, what's up there? Because that's so rude. And it's funny how we have our little individual quirks, don't we, Emerson? What a little
Speak
something
yourself,
I made. I'm sorry.
Speak for yourself.
Oh, okay. I was going to get you involved in the conversation, like how, I could
Yes,
have,
we all do. Yes,
we could
we all
have
do.
our little things and we don't even realize it. We may not realize that what we're doing or what we're saying or what we're non-verbally communicating could rub somebody else the wrong way or could irritate them. And that's why, really watching, with your, heard about the 2 ears and 1 mouth, we got 2 eyes too. You're really watching people and seeing how they react to you. That's very important in it.
It is. And like many people, one of the things that I do occasionally is, well, let me think. And we had somebody over at our house and they had been punished when they were a kid for rolling their eyes at their parents. And the way they took it was I was rolling my eyes at what they were saying. So it's the nonverbal communication. It's one of those things. If you have a radio, you have to tune that radio into a station, right? Now, if I'm not broadcasting on that frequency, you won't get it. I can be broadcasting a lot of different frequencies in radio, but if you're not tuned into it, you ain't going to get it.
That's right.
So whose job is it to make sure the message gets through? Well, it's my job to make sure that the message is going through where it's supposed to on the frequency that hopefully you will be listening to. Now, you have a choice in going through and picking out what you want to listen to, for sure. But when I'm talking to you individually, part of the onus is on me.
Yes.
People say, well, I just speak my mind. I just say what I feel, blah, 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 blah. It's like to realize it's not all about me. It's about you. And, the thing with the texting and email, for example, are 2 forms of communication where there is nothing except the words. And I'm reading the words. Anytime you read, you're hearing them in your head a certain way. You're putting the emphasis on it a certain way. When somebody else is reading it, they may be reading it and hearing it differently. So it's up to me to try to have clarity in my writing. And Jim, you can tell them, I mean, I'm speaking this to you as somebody who has spent much of my career as a professional copywriter for thousands of companies. The onus is on us broadcasting, sending that communication to take the care to be delivering something, to the best of our knowledge, something that's clear, and concise, and that isn't going to be misunderstood.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's like one of the things that we've worked on in the past, Emerson, and we offer here is the 6-minute webinar.
Oh, that's a great program. Great program.
Oh, it really is a 6-minute webinar. I mean, we've all been on webinars before, and you click on a link that you get an email in or something, you see something that's interesting, and you click on it, and you don't know how long it's going to be. And right out of the gate, with the 6-minute webinar, we talk about during this 6-minute webinar, I'm going to share with you, da, 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 da. But the point of it is that number one, you've already told people how long it's going to be. Number two, when you fill out the information, you just give short, condensed bullet type of points. And I remember I was filling up one, helping a lady fill out hers, and she got upset with me because she was used to speaking for 45 minutes. And I told her, I said, this is 6 minutes. This is about the nuts and the bolts. It's got a call to action and let people make their decision. And she wanted to tell them everything. And I mean, it gets, in effective communication, we've talked about this before, but it's so true. Someone starts talking about a particular thing, and then they bring in other things that's of interest to them that has nothing to do with the original content they wanted to get across.
Rabbit trail.
And yeah, it's only interesting to them. Rabbit trail, yeah.
There's some little saying that maybe you can remember, but the mind can absorb as much as your bottom can sit, or something like that. As long and the idea is, and we've all been, I know you have, I have, we've all been to seminars and events and sat in classes and everything else that will go on and on and on.
Oh yeah.
And your brain, at some point,
you get punch drunk.
You just go tilt.
Yeah. You've been hit so much, you just get punch drunk. Yeah.
I think I shared this already, but I'm going to, in one of the previous shows, but in marketing and sales, we use a lot of words that are very aggressive, very militaristic kinds of words. Words like dominate, penetrate, target, leads, crush it, explode, blast your message, use a rifle, not a shotgun, killer copywriting, hammer close. And all of these things are in sales and marketing. That's how they've talked for years. It's like Mad Men kind of talk. And I've been around it for a lot of years, but I began watching and looking at the responses that I got when I would speak. And I've spoken all over the country, in several countries, but when I would speak, I was watching the response. And you go, how many of you want to dominate your market? And the guys go, yeah, and many of the women in the room would go,
oh yeah, oh yeah,
how many of you want to crush them?
Yeah, sign me up.
You got to do a hammer close. You got to hit their pain points. All of the language that you. And I begin to realize, and this is part of a personal journey, Jim.
Right.
But I began to realize I was shutting out half of my audience.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I knew enough in marketing and copywriting that I would be aware of that in writing a sales page or a letter or an ad or whatever. But speaking in front of a group and seeing the reactions was exactly the same thing. They were reacting right in front of me. So I began pulling back from that and changing some of the languages, talking about embracing your market, right? We don't want to kill them. We want to embrace it. I said, and I have a whole little thing, and I have a picture of a tan. You've seen it. And I say at the end of it, after saying all of those really aggressive words, I say, it sounds like we're on a search and destroy mission to wipe out all the prospects out there. It's like, what are we wanting here? We're wanting to build a relationship. Is that how you build a relationship? And then I do a little skit. I'll close this up. But I do the little skit where I walk over and I ask for one of the ladies to to volunteer, and I walk over and I look at her and I say, no, pretend that we're at a networking event, right? Maybe it's Chamber of Commerce. We're at a networking event, and I walk over to you and I say, I saw you from across the room. I had to come over immediately. I look at you and all I want to do is crush you. I just want to dominate you. Don't worry, I'm going to use a rifle, not a shotgun. They and everybody is getting uncomfortable at that point, and someone's kind of getting a little nervous, laughing, and I don't keep it going. I say, you know what? By now she's calling security, right?
Yeah,
because that's not how you talk with people.
Not at all.
And when we are talking with people, we have to be aware, cognizant of the receiver, not just the sender, not the radio station only, but your ability to tune into that station and be on the same wavelength.
Oh, yeah. Because nobody likes to hear stuff.
It's a two-way thing.
Yeah.
And we have to be personally responsible for how we deliver a message.
Yeah.
And now that you know that, we begin taking a little more responsibility to maybe not be as quick to judge a message, but to ask those questions and clarify. The clarifying questions, right, Joe?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because, it's just amazing how when you're aggressive like that, how it repels people and turns them off. And I think it was yesterday, it might have been the day before, I don't recall which day it was, but for some reason there for a while, there were a couple of things that salespeople, especially men, would just be human parrots on. Number one, I don't care. We were in a store one time back in the 80s looking at a vacuum cleaner. And, to me, I just want something to, pick up the dirt when I vacuum, it works. I mean, and the salesperson there, young guy, he had said everything he knew what to say about it. How much amps it's got, da, 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 and so on and so forth, warranty on it. And then he said state of the art. And that was a term that got thrown around a lot in the industry. And my point being, that type of communication has zero value, number one. Number two, people know you're just throwing in filler words to try to sound, knowledgeable when you're not. Because if you're using filler words and phrases, you're not that smart. And the other one was a closing type of question. And that's for the person to say, well, let me think about it. Well, you are interested in saving money. Is that right?
Back in the corner.
Yeah. They try to ask these yes, question answers, where they get a yes to. And that's very degrading and very insulting to people. And that is totally opposite of what you were talking about earlier in communication. You want to communicate and embrace everybody, whether they're a client or whether they're a friend or whether they're a colleague. We need to embrace everyone with love and respect. That's the foundation of life. That's the foundation of a lifestyle, including financial riches.
Well, there's a lot of training in sales that talks about you have to get them emotional. That's the word. And I tend not to use that word because I feel like it's become a derogatory word. But there's some truth in it. The truth is that in your reasoning part of your brain, I'll refer to it in the colloquial way of in your right brain, your feeling, reasoning, emotive brain. That is where all the decisions are made. Your analytical brain, sometimes called the left brain, your analytical brain can crunch numbers all day long, but it won't make a decision. It won't make a decision. Your analytical brain is part of your ancient fight or flight brain. And in all honesty, it's there to keep you alive, to keep you safe, to keep you from getting hurt. And that's what it's going to do. It's going to fight to do that. And the safest you could be would be to sit in a chair in the middle of your house and never go outside and never do anything that could harm you. I mean, that's the the far extreme of that. So any kind of decision that you make gets kicked over to the intuitive brain. If you don't feel it's the right thing to do, you won't do it.
Amen.
And this isn't just me talking. Harvard has spent decades studying the decision-making process. And when people are damaged in the areas of their brain that are those feeling, intuitive, reasoning parts of the brain, they literally reach a point where they can't decide if they want raisins or bananas on their oatmeal in the morning. It's that powerful. So if anybody ever said, well, I just show me the facts, I'm logical, I make logical decisions, I always try. It's like, the facts are important. The features, there's features and benefits. The features are important. But the facts, the benefits are what are going to make the sale, because benefits speak to what it's going to mean to you. Now, I'm coming at this from sales and marketing. This is true in all of your communications. And for goodness sake, nowadays, you have so much tribalism and so much siloing and of information and ideas, and this person believes this is black, and this person believes it's white. It's day, no, it's night. We have to find the communication that opens the door up, and I'm not talking about to prove that you're always prove you're right, but the communication that opens that door up. Because behind all of that stuff that people believe in whatever tribe they're in or camp they're in, there's some feelings that are going on. There's some things some emotional things that are happening in there. And our communication has to be willing to accept that and open the door up to that. And we talked about, I don't want to keep going on and on, but we talked about ways to do it with with probing questions. In sales, they often call them trial closes, like the one that the guy asked you. But to say, how much difference would that make in your life? How does that make you feel? What's the first thing you would do if or when?
Right.
And then we can always also ask what also are called trial closes in sales, but those are all open-end questions, because they're trying to engage them and get them to talk,
get feedback,
and people will tell you what they'll tell you, and let the conversation move together like a dance. Nobody wants to be drugged around the dance floor. Communications is a dance where you're working together. But the other type of probes are the closed probes. Those are the yes or no probes, and those are pretty easy. I mean, yes or no. What he was asking you was a closed-in probe.
Oh yeah,
right? Isn't that right? Yes. Isn't that what everybody wants? Yes. You probably know somebody like that, don't you?
Yes.
These are closed. They're closed. They're yes or no. They're yes or no. And that's really not rocket science, is it, Jim?
No.
There you go.
But it's amazing because, whenever you're speaking to people or whatever you're communicating, they may not remember what you said, but they will definitely remember how you made them feel. And that can be a good feeling or a bad feeling. And when you're communicating with people, we've been talking a little bit about sales and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the principles are the same in personal relationships with family, friends, people that you care about. And how many times has when couples get into disagreements, and one will tell the other, especially the wife, for example, will tell the husband, "You don't listen to me. And that is poor communication on both parties. It really is. Because
And
the
there's a
husband,
difference. There's a
Mhm,
difference in that
mhm,
and saying something like, right now, I don't feel like you're hearing what I'm feeling. You're
yeah,
hearing what I'm saying.
yeah,
You know,
that's a good point.
one is a challenging question,
Right.
right? And the other is a question of understanding. And I'm
Mm,
sharing with you, I'm not telling
yeah.
you what you're doing or not doing. I'm telling you how I'm feeling.
hmm
I don't, I'm not feeling like, this is constructive.
hmm
You know,
Yeah.
and if you are mature enough in your communication, what you've done is you've opened the door up for understanding. And
hmm
that's really the core of communication is understanding.
Yes. hmm
You
And
know,
having the and and
no, go
having
ahead.
the I was just going to say, and having the courtesy to listen and be respectful,
Yeah.
and because you may see things differently, but in communicating, like what Emerson was saying there, excuse me, my throat's bad today, but communicating what Emerson is saying there, sharing how you feel is much better than you're not listening to me or I told you so. Oh, that's a good one. Oh gosh. Has anybody ever told you? I mean, I know we've all heard it. We've all heard it said to us, I told you so.
Well, and the flip side of it is, you know, um, the whole idea of somebody being able to hurt your feelings, of somebody making you feel a certain way. We talked about this on a different show. Actually, I think it was with Donna. But if you true responsibility, personal responsibility recognizes I'm responsible for the way that I feel. I'm responsible for the things that I say, and I'm responsible for the results.
Mm-hmm.
That if I don't take personal responsibility, I'm not owning it. So you can't make me feel any way that I don't choose to feel.
That's right.
You can't hurt my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing at all until I give up the right to be in control of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a real powerful concept. It's a very empowering concept. It's not an in your face ugly kind of a thing, but it's saying, you know what? Or as it was put to me, Jim, I made a comment in a personal development class. Great instructor in class, great instructor, and I said, but, but what do you do when you have somebody who just pushes your buttons? I mean, I had this person at work, and they're always pushing my buttons. You know, I know you've never had that happen.
No, 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 no.
Okay, and I was putting, I kind of was putting him on the spot and challenging the concepts that we're talking about here.
Mhm.
And he could have reacted a lot of different ways, but you know what he did? He looked at me and just said, "Okay, let's think about this. Whose buttons are they? Tell me again. Whose buttons are they pushing? I mean, they push my buttons. I mean, this guy comes in and he says this. He knows that gets. He said, these are your buttons." I said, "Yes." Yeah, we're talking about. He goes, "Who's in control of these buttons?" I went,
Bingo.
"You don't get it. He's coming in and he's just bam, bam." Well, wait a minute. If these are buttons, where the wires go? Can't we cut the wires? These are your buttons, right? You said they're your buttons. And it took about 3 times around the block for that one to finally, and I resisted, but finally to
Yeah,
sink in.
yeah,
But you know
yeah.
what? This is right.
Mhm.
Unless I give you that control
Mhm. Yeah.
and owning my feelings
Mhm.
and owning my ability to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting to
Mhm.
everything,
Mhm.
is powerful. It's the most empowering thing you can have in your life.
Oh,
To be able to recognize you can't hurt me.
You're exactly right.
Yeah. I mean, you can't, I'm not going to give you that power in my life.
Mm-hmm. It's just like one of the most common things that happen to all of us. And you're sitting at the stoplight, and for some reason, studies have proven that the person right behind you, if you're the first car at the stoplight, the second person will always see the light change before you.
Absolutely.
And we've all been there. We will be distracted with something. This is even before cell phones, so I can't blame it on that. I might be thinking about something or fiddling with the radio or something. The light turned green, and the guy behind me, beep, beep. And all I do is just throw up my hand. Hey, thanks, man. And I'm gone. I'm out of his way. And that's just a great reaction. But a lot of people, they want to repel that back on them. And all that does is throw gas on the fire.
Yep.
And another thing, too, is that, I've seen a few of these YouTube videos, I guess other people have, about road rage and all that. A lot of it's self-inflicted. In fact, most of it is. Someone's coming up there to, merge into traffic, and the guy, he's going to shut him off. I'm going, hey, why? Is that 20 foot going to really change your world? I mean, where did you get your brains at? The dumbbell store? I mean, just back off and let the guy, because what?
Let him be down the road motors.
Yep.
Who knows? You may pass them pulled over down the road.
Because
or off the road or something else.
Because
they may get there a little bit ahead of you.
Yeah. But many times what happens is that if you drive friendly, we used to have that here in Texas, drive friendly.
They still have those signs up. They used to be all over Texas.
Oh yeah. I wish that, they need to give a refresher course on it.
Signs, drive friendly.
Yeah. Drive friendly. Yeah. And if you give someone a break, what happens is down the road, somehow or another, whatever you project is going to get reflected on forward. That's a universal law, universal principle. So if someone's trying to merge into traffic and you're wanting to, get behind me, you put your brakes on, I'm more important than you, that gets reflected on down the line. And it's going to come back and snake bite you. Number two, if you're able to just, okay, let him go. So what if the guy's not, driving as good as a driver? Maybe he's not as good a driver as we are. Okay. We tend to label people like that. You're not as good a driver as I am, So what? They have a right to drive that car. Leave them alone and let it go. But many times when you give someone a break, they wave, they appreciate it. And I mean, I'll be coming up to an intersection, and the cars are stopped, and there's a driveway here coming out of the parking lot. I will stop short and look at the person, just come on out. Hey, appreciate that. Give them a break. Because I've seen these people, and they've done it to me, and they've done it to you. They pull right up there and act like they're, you're not even there.
Or with trucks. Mm-hmm. My dad always used to do this. I still do it. Well, I'll blink my lights and let them know it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. That means that they're, flash
your
headlights.
You're clear. You can pull back over now.
Yeah, exactly. I do the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's just common courtesy, because if you get in a habit and make up your mind, no matter what direction the world goes in, you're going to be true to your school. You're going to walk to the beat of your own drum, and you're going to be courteous, and you're going to be kind, and you're going to demonstrate in every little way you can that you love people. Guess what? You're going to have a much better life than the rest of them.
I know we got to wrap this up, but I'm gonna give a quote from my first mother-in-law. She was Hispanic, from South Texas, in fact. Julia used to say to me, and often it was because I was going a little bit too fast. She'd reach over and squeeze my arm and say it, but she would say, "Hijo, hay más tiempo que vida," which very simply means we have more time than life. I don't think a day's gone by. She's been gone for 15, 16, 17 years, I think now. But I don't think a day has gone by that I haven't thought about that at some point. Somebody
Yeah.
is in a hurry, wave them on in.
Mm-hmm.
The cash register, the person at the register is messing up. They've got a call on the intercom. It's like, chill out.
Mm-hmm.
We have more time than life. It's okay.
Oh, yeah.
And that has been a life changer for me.
You're exactly right. And I'm glad you shared that because I like that. Say that again in Spanish, what she said.
Hay más tiempo que vida. We have more time than life.
We got more time in life. Isn't that true? I think a lot of times too, and I believe this, and I could be wrong, but I believe sometimes we may be slowed down in life to keep us from having an accident further up ahead.
So many times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many times.
Mm-hmm.
I have gotten there 5 minutes later, maybe than I would have.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a massive collision.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There's a massive collision.
My brother who lived in California. He was a truck driver for many years, and he drove over 5 million miles, never had an accident. And he pulled doubles from LA to San Francisco.
That's a lot of miles.
Yes, it is. And his attitude was, I'm going to always try to bring this truck back in the same condition my employer gave it to me. He was a very unique person in that regard. And this one day he was going to work, and he said, he got behind some slow pokes and this and that and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like 5 o'clock in the morning. He says, normally these people are not up yet, And he couldn't get around. So, okay, he said, I'll still get there and have plenty of time because I left early enough. And what happened in front of him, there was an earthquake, and the bridge, cement bridge that he was going to go under, came crashing down.
Wow.
So you want to be 5 minutes late to work, or you want to be 5 months, 5 years, or 5 forevers late for work? That's the question. Because that does happen. It really does.
Well, it does.
Yeah.
And the reality is, especially if you're driving around municipal area, you're driving around town.
Oh, yeah.
But the reality is you can't go fast enough to make a difference. And stoplights are the great equalizer anyway.
Oh, yeah.
You can't go fast enough that it's going to make more than 2 or 3 minutes, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're running a few minutes late, then the next time you pulled over, next time you're at a stoplight, we all have phones. Just call them and say, hey, I'm running a few minutes late.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, that's courteous to do it.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our time is gone. We got to we're got to get ready for the next show to come on. And you see Healing Acres Never Again down there. That's Charlene Fouts' organization she created. It's a wonderful organization. It's a charity that we support. And Charlene works with us here at the show. And on behalf of Emerson and all the good folks behind the scene, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow with part 4 of effective communication and hopefully share some other good things with you, because the lost art of communication is very, it's a major issue in this country. And
that's an understatement.
Yeah. So anyway, Emerson, thank you so much for being with us. We'll see you later, brother. Thank you, sir.